Amid growing tensions with China, a bipartisan group of lawmakers have just arrived in Taiwan for a number of high-level talks with Taiwanese government officials. This comes on the heels of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's sit-down with the Thai president in California, despite threats from China. Joining us from Taipei this morning are two members of the delegation that are there, Democratic Congresswoman Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania and Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. Both are members of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and thank you to you both for being here. Congressman, I'll start with you. What kind of message are you hoping to send with this visit?
Well, thanks for having us, Caitlin. I think this is a strong bipartisan endeavor into the Indo-Pacific. We went to Japan, South Korea, and now Taiwan, as well as meeting with our service troops in Hawaii and Guam. And so this has been an extraordinary CODEL led by Chairman McCall of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And I think we've accomplished a lot in terms of gathering information with respect to our allies here in the Indo-Pacific, their concerns, obviously, with the threats coming from China, but also the importance of our relationship between the United States and our allies, both economically, militarily, and from a national security perspective. And so I think we have learned a lot, for sure, but also have a lot of work to do when we get back to Washington. And this is a great bipartisan issue. And I think we've had a great time traveling to the Indo-Pacific together.
And Congresswoman, you are quite experienced on Capitol Hill. You know well, what kind of moment we're in when it comes to politics on Capitol Hill.
I'm not hearing the question.
Maybe Congressman Lawler, you can tell her, just to see this moment of bipartisanship, to see a Democrat and a Republican sitting down together to have this conversation, to make this visit, and the significance of that given where we are in politics in 2023.
I did. I got the end of it. So thank you, Caitlin. I'm having a little trouble hearing. It is very important as we are in this year of conflict around the globe to show a really united front. It was important to Chairman McCall that we have a bipartisan CODEL, and we had the chance, as Mike said, to first start in Hawaii and meet with our troops there, to meet with the Indo-Pacific Command and to understand really the gravity of all that is going on here militarily. I have to tell you how impressed I am with our military folks. Anytime you sit down with them or have lunch with them, they're just dedicated individuals. But then to go from there, to go to Guam and see more members of the military there, to go on to Japan, and then to South Korea, gave us a terrific perspective of our rock-solid allies in Japan and South Korea as we came to Taiwan. I really want to say that I'm happy that Congress is really united on our support for Taiwan, both economically, in its economic security and in our trade relationships, as I hope we build this year a bipartisan trade agreement, but also, of course, militarily, for deterrence. We know that the best thing that we can do, that Taiwan can do, is deterrence in order to protect peace. This is a people that are peace-loving. That's one of the really terrific things about this trip, is to meet the people of Taiwan, understand their prosperity, their hopes for their children and their future. They're a peace-loving people, and so we support them in their deterrence against any aggression.
And speaking of that deterrence, there are a lot of weapons shipments that the U.S. has promised to Taiwan. They haven't all made it there. A lot of them have not. How important is it, and what are you hearing from officials there about expediting the delivery of those weapons?
Well, that is certainly one of their concerns that they have raised with us during our conversations, and we're going to be meeting with President Tsai tomorrow. Obviously, she had a meeting in California with Speaker McCarthy and another bipartisan delegation of Congress. And that is one of the biggest concerns. I think one of the lessons learned from the Russian invasion of Ukraine is the need to ensure that our allies, and in this situation Taiwan, have the support and the resources that they need. We made a commitment to them to provide them with weapons that they have purchased. We need to fulfill that commitment and expedite this process. And I think that's one of the takeaways from our trip, that we want to look at ways that we can, from a legislative standpoint, expedite the process both on the front end and on the production end to make sure that these weapons are getting there soon. Because at the end of the day, as Madeleine pointed out, deterrence is the key word. And nobody wants conflict in Taiwan or in the Taiwan Strait. We want to avoid that. But as President Reagan always said, peace through strength. And we need to ensure that we are strong in the Indo-Pacific region, that our allies are strong in Japan and South Korea, the Philippines, Australia, and Taiwan. And we need to make sure that they get the weapons as soon as possible.
Congresswoman? We found that is actually one of the issues here that we're very concerned about. I'm very proud of the Biden administration and this Congress for authorizing the sale of very needed weapons to Taiwan for the purpose of deterrence and readiness, because if they are prepared, they will prevail. And by prevail, I hope it is prevail in simply maintaining peace and prosperity for this beautiful island and these beautiful people.
Yeah, it's such a critically important trip that you're on, and we see that here. We see how China is responding to it, issuing its own warnings. Congressman Lawler, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about something that's happening here in the U.S., which is this extraordinary headlines that are coming out of Tennessee, the expulsion of these two Democratic lawmakers from the state house there. You're a Republican who is obviously in Washington, but do you think that they went too far by expelling these two Democrats for what they did on the state floor in Tennessee?
Well, respectfully, Caitlin, I have not had the opportunity to really know what's going on in Tennessee. We're about 12 hours ahead, and we've been in back-to-back meetings all day. So I think it'd be inappropriate for me to comment on it, frankly.
If I could just say something. Today we were with the legislature here in Taiwan. It was really an honor to be able to witness part of the session. And it was not just a bipartisan group of lawmakers, it's a quadripartisan group of lawmakers. And so anytime we can do what we can do to lift democracy, that's really our mission here. And it is important at home, just as it is here. So I think what Tennessee needs to pay attention to is what are the right moves for democracy, for the freedom of speech, the freedom of representation, and for democracy, just like we are lifting up here.
And that is the truth. We need a robust exchange of ideas. That is what democracy is about. We're seeing it here on the island of Taiwan. They're going to be having their elections next January. And we had an opportunity to meet today with members from all parties and have a discussion. And so, I think all of us collectively as elected representatives, we have an obligation to uphold and uplift democracy. You need to have a robust exchange of ideas, and all of us have a responsibility in that for sure.
Yeah. Democratic Congresswoman Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania, Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. A rare moment of bipartisanship. We do love to see that. And thank you both for taking the time to join us from your very important trip to Taipei. Thank you. Amid growing tensions with China.